Today we're going to draw some simple organic Lewis structures. We're going to be doing ones that each have two carbons, ethene, ethanol, and ethanal. And the eth tells us that there's two carbons present. To start with, ethene, which has a formula of C2H4. Something you want to keep in mind with organic compounds is the carbons tend to go in the center and the hydrogens tend to go on the outside. So before I start connecting bonds, I'm just going to lay out the atoms in a way that I think looks symmetrical, keeps the carbons in the center, and puts the hydrogens on the outside. Next I'm going to fill in electrons based on the number of valence electrons that each of these atoms have. So carbon has 4 valence electrons, hydrogen has 1 valence electron, and now I'm ready to play dot to dot. So I'm going to see that there's an unpaired electron for hydrogen, and it's going to connect to one from carbon. And another from hydrogen will connect. And another over here, and another here, and then between carbons also, so that everyone gets a single bond. Now lastly, I can do a check and see, okay, well I have these 2 electrons that are not paired. I could make a pretty good guess that those are going to need to connect to each other. And I want to look now at my center atoms, carbon for example, and count how many electrons it's seeing right now. It should have 8 if it has an octet. 2, 4, 6, 8. So because this carbon has 8 electrons around it, I've drawn a good structure. Now if I want to clean it up a little bit, here's what that ends up looking like. Carbon with a double bond to the other carbon, out to 2 H's on this side, and 2 H's over here. Next up is ethanol. This is the formula for ethanol, CH3, CH2OH. Again, I want to write an estimate of where the atoms should go and then fill in electrons and bonds. The way the formula is written with a carbon and then H's after it is going to tell me that those 3 H's are going to be surrounding that carbon. So if I get ready to draw, at this point I'm just arranging H's. And then I see there's going to be another carbon, which is also going to have H's around it. And then I see that there's an oxygen, and this oxygen has an H that's going to be connected to it as well. So now I'm ready to put those electrons in. Each hydrogen gets 1 electron. Each carbon gets 4 electrons. And oxygen gets 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm ready to play dot to dot to make single bonds. So I'm just going to connect electrons throughout here. C's to H's, C to O, O to H. And notice that I still have some lone pairs here on oxygen, and that's okay. I want to check that I have 8 electrons around my center atoms. So for example, let's pick this carbon right here. It has 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons, so that's good. And then this oxygen here has 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons, so that's also set with an octet. Now I can redraw it cleaned up a little bit. C to 3 H's, another C to 2 H's, and an O, don't forget its lone pairs, and an H, and that's ethanol. Last we're going to do ethanal. So ethanol has the formula CH3CHO. I'm going to follow my same pattern where I first write out 2 carbons. This first carbon has 3 H's surrounding it, and the second one has an H and an oxygen, and that's it. Next I want to draw in those valence electrons. Each hydrogen has 1 valence electron. Each carbon has 4 valence electrons. And oxygen has 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm ready to play dot to dot. Connect those carbons to hydrogen, connect these carbons to hydrogen, connect to oxygen. Now I notice that carbon still has one unpaired electron, oxygen still has one more unpaired electron, and so my guess is going to be to connect those two. And if I do that, let's check to see if I have a full octet here. So let's count. We have 2 electrons, 4, 6, 8, so I have 8 electrons for this carbon. And if I do the same thing for oxygen, oxygen has its 4 unpaired electrons plus 6, 8 total here, so 8 electrons. To draw this cleaned up a little bit, here's how it would look. H surrounding the carbon, single bond to another carbon, double bond to an oxygen, and then the hydrogen here. And there we have ethanol. And that wraps up some Lewis structures.